guys, it's Girl Got Game. Welcome to Seduce Me to the Demon War. That's right, we're going to start off basically where we left off by continuing the adventures with the Incubi Brothers and, of course, our favorite succubus, Diana. Those are the only routes that have continued from the first game, and my thought process is I'm going to play the routes in the order that I did in the first one. I didn't find a recommended route order for the sequel, so that's my thought process. There's also a tutorial for this, so I don't know what there'll be aside from, like, click, and also right-click to save, but I'm curious, so we'll just go through it in case there's something crazy in there.
Must I do this?
Oh, look, it's Kay again. Remember Kay from Simon transforming and being all strange? And now you're here. In a beautiful goth outfit, but you're not a demon. Interesting. Okay, we'll continue.
Come on! You have to be the one to set the example! You're the goddess of the rebellion, the matriarch of the new demon world, the savior of demonkind!
My goodness, no pressure.
And that is why I must give a tutorial? It should be simple enough to understand. It's an interactive story with minimal controls.
That's what I figured, but, you know, wow me, Diana.
You gotta let people know how to read your story correctly so they can play the visual novel without accidentally screwing up. It's so important that they know all the things that they can do.
I love that we're starting this with a fourth wall break already. I couldn't be happier.
My lady, it would help in our cause if the players knew what to do.
I'm so glad Sarah was here too.
Very well. The basic controls come from your computer keyboard or mouse. There are multiple ways to go through the story using one or the other, or even both if you desire as much. If you use your mouse to left-click the screen, or press the Enter or Space keys, you will proceed forward in the story. It is important that you pay attention to what is being said, because you may be forced to remember something in the future.
Great, I'm just fantastic at remembering things.
However, if you've seen narration or dialogue before, you may hold down the Control key to skip forward. If you don't care to hold down a button, you can press the Tab key to toggle the skip function. Doing so will fast-forward you through the section until you press the Tab key again or reach an unread section of the story, where the function shuts off automatically.
Also, I gotta say, I love the fact that the actual developer of the game is voicing the lines for the tutorial. That's a nice touch.
If you can't be bothered with the keyboard, there's also a skip button you can click on near the dialog box, alongside buttons where you can save or load your progress, set the story on auto mode, go to the options menu, or simply go back to the main menu. If you proceed far enough, you may be faced with a story-changing choice. Remember, every choice you make affects this war, and war is unforgiving.
Yeah, I heard this is a little more complicated than the first game, so I'm a little bit nervous. For instance, there's bad endings. Fun. Yeah, we'll get into that in a second.
Now, you may decide your choices with the mouse by hovering over your answer with your mouse pointer and left-clicking it, or you may select your choice by using the arrow keys and confirming your choice by pressing the Enter key. Use this wisely. You will not be able to change your answer later.
What I really want to know is, are there still timed answers sometimes? Because I like to have time to think over my choices, and I was freaked out in the first one.
If you have a scroll wheel on your mouse, you can roll past sections you have already read by rolling the wheel backwards until you reach new unread text. You may also roll back up to 10 sections in case you miss something by rolling forward. But be warned, your choices cannot be altered.
Fair.
Isn't that a bit unfair, my lady?
I just said fair, and he's like, isn't that a bit unfair?
As I said, war is unforgiving. We can't fix our mistakes by going back in time. We can only remember the choices we made and what the consequences were.
Unless, of course, you, save before every choice and then just reload it. But that would be save scumming, and that is not honorable in war.
As you say.
Well, if the player saves right before they make a choice, they can just reload their save and make another choice.
Okay, I'm getting ahead of the game. I'm just gonna shut up now.
Did you say something?
No, nothing at all.
If for some reason you wish to capture a moment on screen without the text box showing, you can press the H key, then press the S key to take a screenshot, which will be saved in the game folder. Don't worry though. You can continue the story and show the text box again by repressing the H key. The right-click function on your mouse and the escape key both bring you to the save menu. Use this wisely. You will be asked if it is okay to overwrite a save if you choose to save over old progress. I believe that is everything of significance. Is there anything that I have missed?
I think that should be everything. Awesome!
May we leave now? We do have a war to fight, and I need to lead my armies to victory.
Go, go, go! Win your war! Score the goal! Win the points!
Who are you?
War doesn't work like that.
Come, we're leaving.
Yes, my lady.
Hopefully, this war doesn't end tragically. Then again, I guess that's up to you, right?
Thanks, Kay. No pressure. Okay, so that was the tutorial. That was a very entertaining way to start this. So yeah, anyway, endings. There are bad endings. I think some people have more than one good ending. I think everyone has at least 2 bad endings, if not more. As far as I'm aware, James has 1 good end and 3 bad ends, maybe, possibly? It's very hard to find any information on Seduce Me 2. And I didn't want to spoil things for myself too much, so that's what I was able to guess at. You guys can tell me if I'm absolutely wrong, of course. Whoops. Slap my notebook. Okay, but we're going to start with James and try and get his good ending. So, let's begin with Yellow.
Hold on there!
Aye.
Before you start the game, I need to ask you a few things. Don't want you getting lost now.
Okay.
First of all, have you read the first story, Seduce Me the Otome? Like, seriously read it. No
Yeah.
skimming, no pretending to read it. No. It's okay if you haven't, but there are a lot of things in this game that you won't understand unless you fully experienced and understood that story first.
I don't know, guys. What do you think? Do you think, like, unlocking everything in that game and doing all the routes and stuff was enough? I think we should be sufficiently prepared for the sequel. Also, the music is still a little loud. I turned it down already, but that's good. Yes, girl.
Oh, okay. Awesome. Next question.
Returning for more.
You do know this is James's route, right? You know, the eldest incubus?
You mean Raystro? I am aware. Yep, I know.
Oh, awesome! All right then. James is pretty cool, huh? It's the glasses, isn't it? You can tell me.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Anyway, I have one last question for you. Some people like hearing the trigger warnings before they start games, while others don't really care and just want to play. It's cool either way, but do you want to know about some of the content listed in the game?
It probably would be best to just have this laid out in case anyone's watching who isn't aware of, there's violence involved, sexual content. Speaking of sexual content, I think unlike the first game, some of these routes, for sure, you have to sleep with the guy in order not to get a bad ending. You don't have to, but just in case, it might make things kind of screwy towards their ending. So I'm just going to sleep with them. I'm not going to go back and pick the other option just in case. I'll pick the other option when doing their bad endings, because then it doesn't matter. But yeah, okay, lay it out for us, Kay, in case people don't know. Sure, thanks.
No problem. It's my pleasure. Well, this game is recommended for players ages 18 and up. Trigger warnings include suicide,
Again,
war,
oh no.
torture, mentions of rape, and a large amount of violence and sexual content.
Right to you.
Don't worry though, any sex scene choice you encounter is completely up to you. You can play this game without needing to go through the sex scenes and still get the good endings. Consent is important.
I did hear differently from some people, but of course maybe they just messed up. I'm not gonna risk it either way. I'll put in on the bottom of my descriptions, as I always did, where the fun times are, and then you can skip those scenes if you so desire. That's my little way of helping out.
I think that should be everything. All right. Phew, that took a while.
I'll say, I think we're like 10 minutes into the recording. I haven't even started the game yet.
You forgot something.
Uh-oh.
Huh? What did I forget?
You forgot about the disclaimer.
Oh, crap! Oh, how could I have forgotten about that?
It's fine, I'll take care of it. This game was produced by Michaela Laws using the Ren'Py visual novel engine. We truly hope you enjoy this story.
Thanks, Diana. Now, don't you have a war to go fight?
I do. I just wanted to make sure everything was in order before the story began. I'll take my leave now.
Thanks, girl.
Thanks, Di.
Do not call me Di.
Can we call her Di in her root?
Anyway, we really do hope you like the story. Have fun! See you at the end.
Okay, Kay. Please explain to me who you are later.
Gwen anam avast at demon habnas.
Angels? To start with, maybe?
I wish to set a stone destiny. Because the fate of the Abyssal Plains is in the hands of the wrong man. I must set things right.
Whose voice is that?
I come bearing my life force as the price. Take as much as you desire, as long as my request is fulfilled. Then, that is the price, as long as you set the stone destiny.
Do I click again? I'm counting on you, Patore, to fill me in on the Latin. My name. My name is... Here we go! Start this. Angel. I'd almost forgotten it. I clung to it by a single thread, knowing that if I let go, I'd be lost in a dark void, never to return. Why? Why was I so worried about my name? Well, it was the only claim I had to reality, especially when I was behind bars. Girl, what did you do? Okay, an interesting start. For some reason, I was in a cell. I didn't know why. I didn't know how I got in here. All I knew was that I was in it and that I was chained to a wall by shackles on my ankles. I didn't want to accept the bars as real. I didn't want to be in a cell. I didn't want to smell the dank stench of blood and sweat emanating from all around me. But I had no choice in the matter. No matter how many times I examined my surroundings, they remained the same. I was in a cell in a dimly lit stone dungeon. The walls were unfriendly, and the shackles around my ankles provided no comfort. The rags I was forced to wear barely fit, and I felt filthy. Why was I here? I didn't have the answer. All I knew was that I was trapped. I could hear quiet sobbing and muffled screaming from further down the passageway I was in. They reverberated from down the hall, and I knew that they must have come from fellow prisoners or the condemned. I, however, only had one neighbor. In the cell beside me sat a figure wrapped in a dark purple cloak. The top of the figure's head was shrouded by both the shadows in their cell and the hood that covered their face. They never spoke. They never moved. Were they dead? I watched them closely for some time, but I never saw their body inhale, exhale, or show any other sign of life. I didn't wish to think on it further, so I turned my head away. What was happening? I opened my mouth to shout, hoping that maybe someone would hear me and give me some sort of clue as to what was going on. As I tried to command my voice to speak, however, the sound of a large door opening echoed throughout the dungeon. I turned my head towards the direction of the sound, and watched as the hall slowly began to brighten, like there was a torch moving towards my cell. I stared wide-eyed at what was approaching. Moving toward my cell was a man I recognized, one that had been close to my heart, and now had a look of cold disdain in his eyes. My chest pounded as his name reverberated in my head. James. That's not James. James got that evil glow. He was still in his human form, but his voice vibrated with demonic echoes and waves, sending shivers down my spine. His tone was cold and unfeeling, as if I was not someone he loved, but someone he despised with every ounce of his being.
You still live. I'm surprised.
Oh, hello, Diana. Suddenly, from the cell beside me, the cowled figure jumped up and slammed into the bars, gripping them as they snarled at James. I stared, now able to see who had been hidden by the cloak.
You piece of filth! How can you dare show your face again?
So was he talking to Diana? Diana? James seemed unfazed as he stepped towards Diana's cage and leaned in, almost nose to nose with her.
We're not...
And you live too. How resilient you both are.
Okay, he was talking to me first.
We're not so weak as to break under your chains, traitor. After all, unlike you, I carry pure Lilith blood in my veins. In that human, the one you love, is more powerful than your pathetic mind can fathom.
I do hope we figure out, like, why is she so powerful at some point? What was Diana talking about? Why was James acting like this? I opened my mouth to speak, but felt something hold back my voice. It was as if a vice had been tightened over my vocal cords and denied them any chance to create sound in my throat. James smirked and gripped Diana's chin, making her snarl louder.
Anyone can be broken. It just takes time and patience, both of which I have in abundance.
Fucking monk!
James tightened his grip on her chin, digging his fingers into her jaw. Diana could only wince and glare at the one holding her. I felt fear run through my body as his lips curved even more into a devilish smirk. How could he look so evil?
Be patient, woman. You'll have your turn soon enough.
As James turned his gaze to me, I felt my body suddenly heat up. His eyes were glowing an almost sickly golden yellow as he stared into my soul and ignited my core with heat and desire. Really? Alright. I felt dizzy and weak, my mouth falling open to allow a silent sigh escape from my lips. What was happening? Oh dear. I'm feeling a little concerned. James released Diana and walked to the door of my cell, quickly manipulating the lock to open it. As the door opened, I felt myself crawl backwards towards the back of the cell, suddenly afraid of the demon who was approaching. At the same time, I felt uncanny and unnatural elation for the man approaching me with a smirk that tore at my heart.
Well, time to dine.
I guess that's true. I didn't think about the fact that this is like food for them, too.
Don't you fucking touch her!
Before I knew it, Diana pressed her body against the bars that divided our cells and grabbed James's shoulder, digging her nails into it. Protecting me, girl, wow.
You little...
In retaliation, James swung his arm towards Diana and formed a familiar pistol in his hand. Within moments, he aimed and fired. I could only watch as Diana jumped back and held her chest, blood oozing from between her fingers onto the ground. She stared at James in both pain and surprise before crumpling to the floor and exhaling the last breath she would ever take. My mind was caught in a frenzy of emotions. While I felt shocked, terrified, and mortified at what had happened, my mind continued to dance in the desirable waves that ran through my body. Why couldn't I control myself? If I'm so powerful, why can't I control myself? I really hope this is just a nightmare. This isn't how we're just gonna start the game, then it's like 3 days ago, and then we'll work up to this. The pistol in James's hand disappeared as he let out a sneer of irritation.
Damn it!
James then looked at me, towering over me as I both cowered in fear and melted against the back wall of my cell.
Looks like you'll have to give me twice the amount of energy from now on.
As James began to step towards me, I felt hot tears run down my cheeks while I panted like a dog in heat. I wanted to scream. I wanted to tell him not to hurt me. My voice began to press against the vice holding it, wanting to explode out. James's shadow consumed me, and I let out a scream. Then I woke up. Oh, thank goodness it was a nightmare. Why did you dream about that, girl? I hope that wasn't a premonition of anything. I shot up in my bed, panting wildly as my heart pounded hard against my ribcage. I gripped my hand over my chest, feeling my pulse beating underneath the skin in a frantic rhythm in time with my hastened breath. I heard the faint echo of my scream bounce through the room as I let reality sink in. It was a dream, and I was awake now. Everything was okay. Everything was...
Love?
Love? My heart froze, and I felt my body tense up at the sound of James's voice beside me. My heated cheeks reminded me of the tears I had shed in the dream and who had caused them. Ah. I shot my head to the side to see James, the man whom I loved, but also the man who terrified me, looking at me with a face painted with concern and worry.
Love, are you okay?
Get away from me! I couldn't control myself as I quickly rolled out of bed and pressed myself back against the far wall, staring at him in absolute terror. James only stared back at me, still shocked and now troubled. He didn't move, most likely not wanting to frighten me further. Images of the dream I had began to replay in my head, replacing the James in bed with the James that towered over me in that dark jail cell. My body shook violently from the memory, but soon my logic began to break the images apart, leaving me with the sight of James still in bed staring at me. My thoughts slowly melted, and I felt myself start to cry once again. This time my heart began to ache as I realized whom I had yelled at. I lurched forward and practically jumped at James, who opened his arms wide and wrapped me in them as I landed against his chest. Oh, I was so patient. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
Shh. There's nothing to be sorry about. It was only a nightmare. I'm right here.
James held me close to him as I began to cry into his shoulder. I continued to apologize to him, whimpering and sobbing like a child as the fear from the nightmare slowly began to fade away. James's hand simply ran over my head and hair, trying to calm me down. It had felt so real, and yet I knew that it couldn't have been. James was right here, protecting me and comforting me, proving the love he had for me. He would never hurt me. Ever. Why do I feel like that's an ominous statement about the future? I'm worried about the bad endings. I'm really worried. We didn't have to worry about those in the first game. Eventually, I was able to calm down, and I looked up at the man holding me as he gently smiled down at me.
Are you all right?
I nodded, earning a small squeeze of his arms around me. I naturally cuddled closer to his body, desiring more of his warmth. What time is it? James gently hugged me tighter to his body as he looked over to his nightstand at his phone, which was docked in a fancy speaker charger.
It's 3:40 a.m.
Ugh. We still had a few hours before our alarms were set to wake us. Crap. Why did I have to have a nightmare and wake both of us up? I gripped James's shoulders and looked up at him apologetically. I'm sorry. I know you need your sleep.
Please don't worry about it. My beautiful fiancé is much more important to me than sleep.
Oh. As he said fiancé, I couldn't help but feel my face heat up, letting a blush run along my cheeks. It was true. I was his fiancé. He had asked me to marry him a couple of months ago, and I had accepted his proposal, wanting to be his wife. Just thinking about the idea of being with him forever made the imaginary butterflies in my stomach dance around happily and flutter their wings against my heart. It was a dream come true. His love and warmth assured me that my nightmare was just that. He was my wonderful husband-to-be, and I was going to be his wife. My body couldn't help but shiver in happiness. James caught the shiver and gently ran his hands up and down my arms.
Are you feeling cold?
No, you just make me happy. That's all. As I leaned up and kissed James's cheek, he smiled and kissed mine in return. His warm lips sent another euphoric shiver down my spine, and I felt joy run through my veins. I truly loved James. It wasn't long, however, before I felt something gently brush against my hip. I looked down as James cleared his throat in embarrassment. Raising an eyebrow, as well as growing a blush on my face, I looked up at my fiancé as he looked away from me, his face almost red as a tomato.
I'm sorry, I can't exactly control my excitement when you say things like that.
But that's okay, let's go back to sleep. I kiss him passionately. James didn't have to use his powers to light my fire. I gently tilted my head and kissed him, capturing his lips with mine lovingly. I felt my body slowly heat up, softly and tenderly, to make sure not to scare me. His enthrallment over me became a natural part of our lovemaking. It not only helped him gain energy, but it made the pleasure of our sex practically 10 times more powerful. As I moaned against his lips, James gently ran his hands down my back and over my rear, making me slightly jump in surprise at the feel. As he gripped it, I let out another hot moan, and James smiled and chuckled quietly against my lips. I stared at the ceiling, lusting for James, as he pulled away from the kiss and began to kiss over my neck. Whew, it's getting kind of warm in here. I absolutely needed this man, and I needed him now. My body pressed against his and forced him back onto the bed, allowing me to be on top and be in control. James stared up at me, still gripping onto my ass and gently massaging each cheek with his fingers with a smirk. We both knew that he was always in control whenever we made love. However, my rebellious attempts at being top often spurred him on to be that much rougher in our play. It was like a game. Still, I like to think that I tried valiantly and not in vain. I moved my hands back and took his off of me, placing our fingers together and pinning them to the bed beside his head. They didn't fight back against my hold, but James's face continued to intimidate me with a playful smirk and a dominant gaze. I gently leaned down and captured his lips again, grinding my hips against him and showing him the heat and desire I was feeling for him. His hands tightened around mine, and I felt him gently grind back up into me and letting his own desire rub against mine. My body forced me to pull my lips away, making me bite my lower lip in pleasure at the grind before suddenly feeling myself being flipped over on the bed with James smirking over me. I didn't care. I wanted him to take me in whatever position we ended up in. Wrapping my legs around his waist, I pulled James close and leaned my head up, brushing my lips against his. Oh my god, do I have to say this? Oh, it's bad enough reading the lines. You want me to say this? This is gonna be a rough let's play. Okay. I can do this. What are you waiting for? Take me.
As you wish.
Within mere moments, we went from grinding each other to moaning each other's names as we made passionate love. Our clothes were thrown about the room, but we didn't give a damn. We're busy. Every movement pushed moans and gasps from my lips, building towards a beautiful high as I moved against him and made him feel the same. Our sex wasn't just to feel pleasure. It was our bodies melding and moving together in perfect harmony, with each moan professing our love for each other. There wasn't a single moment of silence between us, letting our love echo through the room. As we were finally eclipsed in ecstasy for each other, we held each other tightly, not wanting to let go of one another. James had pulled up our covers over our bodies, and I had made his chest my pillow. James ran his hands through my hair, his heated and worn-out breath matching mine as we both fell back into the darkness of sleep. The nightmare didn't return. I slept peacefully within James's arms as if nothing else mattered in the world except for me and him. Okay, I think that's enough of a roller coaster for one episode. Went from a fourth wall break to some funny tutorial things to like a really scary nightmare rape thing to fun times and stuff. That's a good start. We'll just cool off a bit. I'm gonna go stick my head in the freezer and then we'll come back for the next episode. Hope you guys are enjoying it so far, and until next time, I will see you later.